Welcome back to Area DMG. I'm your host, Phil Wesley, the Mile High Mouth, and for today's episode of Gravity Falls, or rather, this episode of Gravity Falls that we're reviewing for Suki Nihon, this is episode 12 of Season 1, Summerween. You see, it's June 22nd in Gravity Falls, and it's time to celebrate Summerween, which is essentially in a lot of sitcoms, there's this trope where you've got a younger sibling and an older sibling, and the older sibling decides that they're too old to go trick-or-treating or whatnot, and they let down the other sibling by lying to them about that, because they want... That's what happens in this one. Dipper decides, even though Halloween is Mabel and Dipper's favorite holiday, and Summerween is kind of a way to do that in the context of this series without it actually being October. And he's all into it until he hears that Robbie and Wendy are going to a party. And so he's like, well, I guess I'm too old for that. It's Dipper just being kind of a jerk, actually. But I do have to admit that I really, really like the jack-o'-melons that are all over the place in this episode. They're pretty much watermelons have been carved out like jack-o'-lanterns, and it's pretty inventive, I think. I'm surprised I haven't seen more of those around this time. I mean, June 22nd, ladies and gentlemen, that's Summerween. And, yeah. Anywho, he decides he's going to try and skip it, and tells Mabel he's, sick, and then everything goes awry when a creature that's kind of based off of, okay, there's a Studio Ghibli movie called Howl's Moving Castle, and a Studio Ghibli movie called Spirited Away, and there's this thing called the Summerween Prankster, or Trickster. The Summerween Trickster, which is a combination of the witch's guards in Howl's Moving Castle and No-Face from Spirited Away, that shows up and tells Dipper and Mabel and Candy and Grinda that they must collect 500 pieces of candy before the last jack-o'-melon is extinguished or die. Needless to say, they do, and then they don't, and then they have to defeat this thing, and it's pretty funny, actually. A lot of good action sequences in here. Pretty much everything Grinda and Candy say in this thing is pretty gold. Suze has some really good lines in this, and it's all about celebrating pure evil. Anywho, there's a little B-side plot where Grunkle Stan tries to scare these fairly jaded children, and he ends up scaring them in a way that I'm surprised got past standards and practices, Disney. Seriously, he didn't just scare these kids, he eventually kind of traumatizes them. That's pretty funny. It's a great little episode. It's still filler, but it's still good. And the design for the Summerween Trickster is great. So, yeah, I thought it was a pretty good episode. What did you think of this episode? Tell me in the comments below. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And until the next video comes out, you are now caught up.